Hello, 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 and welcome to By the Fifth Podcast. It's your boy Roger Trent, and as you already know, you could call me Tico. What's up? Listen, today we're going to be talking about a few things here, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put myself on blast with this first story so that you get a good grasp of what I'm talking about and where I'm going with this, okay? So, many years ago, back in my dating days, I went to this, it was a convention of a sort. It was called Jack the Rapper. Okay, this was in Atlanta back in, I'd say maybe 1990, right? So this is before, of course, Google and internet and checkout and check facts and that sort of thing, right? So every year they would have this event, and at this event, they would pay tribute to Jack. Okay, Jack was one of the first black radio disc jockeys, and his call name was Jack the Rapper. So all the celebrities would come together to celebrate Jack the Rapper downtown Atlanta. I believe it was at the Hilton Hotel. And they would party for the entire weekend. Okay, now we're talking about the heavy hitters back then. Okay, this wasn't just anybody. I'm talking about Prince and Arsenio Hall and oh man, Mary J. Blige, Tupac. Like this was the event of all events, and like I said, it happened every year. So this particular year, I decided that I wanted to go. Okay, so I'm working 2 jobs trying to make this thing happen. And so I saved up all my money from these 2 jobs. While I was saving my money, I was also living in my first apartment. All right. And I was also saving my rent money for this event. Okay. So I go to this event. Once I get my checks and get it all together, when Jack the Rapper came, I walked in this place. I mean, like I own the place. All right. I'm walking past. I'm seeing all the big heavy hitters there. Now, see, the average person could go for like $400, which today would be about $1,000 to $1,500, for a couple days, right? So you could go in and you could mingle with the greats, right? And a lot of people who were, my age at the time, they were trying to shop their demos and get record deals, all right, as I was myself. So I'm going up the escalator, right? Now you got to picture this. There's people everywhere in this hotel. And they're selling stuff. You got people getting autographs. You have people, like Snoop Dogg with a whole posse behind them. And I mean, this place is just jumping. In every, big room, there's a concert or a party or something. So this place has energy just flowing through it. I'm coming up the stairs. And as I'm going up the stairs and looking around, I get eye contact with a beautiful woman at the top of the escalator. Our eyes meet up, and I initially begin to think, this girl is out of my league. She looks like she dates football players and movie stars, and you know what I mean, and music producers and what have you. At this time, I wasn't any of those things, right? So I'm thinking, she's out of my league, but I get to the top of the escalator and she's staring at me. I'm staring at her, and somehow we just go into conversation, right? So we sit down and we talk, and we're talking and everything. And the whole time I'm in my head like, I couldn't believe this, man. I'm doing this thing. So she tells me that she is in school for law. And when she asked me what I did not want to tell her that I was working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Okay, I wasn't even a manager yet. It was bad, you know what I mean? I was packing biscuits. So I'm not going to tell her this. So after she says, yeah, I'm in school studying law, blah, blah, blah. So what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a producer. I'm a big time producer. She like, yeah, so who do you produce? I'm like, who do I produce? I mean, Boys to Men. Have you heard of Boys? I know you heard of Boys to Men. Boys to Men. The rapper Heavy D. And I'm naming these people, and she's like, oh my God, you really are a big time producer. Because I'm really laying this crap on thick. So she buys into this thing. Now, meanwhile, as we're walking through the hotel, we're seeing these people. Okay, they're walking through, so it's not like I can hide. She's like, "Oh my God, there's a group you produce." I'm like, "What's up, Wanye? What's up, my brother? You good? You good?" And he like, "What's up, man? How you doing? You good?" I'm like, "Yeah. Hey, man, we gonna talk later." He looking at me like, "Talk later?" You know what I mean? But I'm playing it off, trying to rush her past them. So I do this, right? I'm playing. She's like, "Oh my God, they all know you." And I had one of those faces where people thought they knew me, and then the confidence that I had, they really believed like they was tripping, So we go through this whole weekend, man, and I just, just a beautiful romantic weekend, and I just keep the lies going. I'm like, hey, I'm down here from Philly, you know what I mean, and I'm only here for the Jack the Rapper, but I'm gonna come back down in about a month, and we'll go out, and kick it, and what have you. And she's like, okay, so our last day, we kiss and say our goodbyes, and that was that. Beautiful weekend. So the next week, I'm at my job at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I'm telling all my friends about what happened. I'm like, dude, you just don't know. I told you I was a producer, right? And then I seen Boys to Men. I'm telling them the story. They're all engrossed. Everybody's listening like, what? Dude, you did that. And I get a call on the drive-through window. So I stop talking to them and I take the call from the drive-through window. And when the person came around, I go open up the window and I go to hand out the chicken and biscuit. And so you had a chicken and biscuit, and I look down and it's the girl from Jack the Rapper. It's her sitting in the car with her friends. And she looks at me and she says, oh my God. Oh my God. Now, mind you, I'm standing here with this pointy Kentucky Fried Chicken hat on. All right. No swag at all. I have on this name tag that says Roger. I told her my name was Tico, right? I go by Tico, but she sees Roger and she looks at me and she's like, oh my God. Oh my God. You're not a big time producer. You're a chicken man. And everybody started laughing. Chicken man, chicken man. And she was like, her girls was like, that's the guy you told us about? She's like, yeah. And they all laugh. And I'm sitting there like, do you want your chicken a biscuit or not? You know what I mean? I'm mad at this point. The whole place is laughing at me. So she pulls around and she comes through the front door and kind of, calls me over. Meanwhile, I'm back there getting, oh man, they laying into me. So I walk out there feeling all bad, and, I sit down and she asked me, why did I have to lie to her? And we talked the whole thing through, and so we decided to go on another date. But it's just not the same because I don't have, I don't know. I lost it all when I became the chicken man. I was in my head. And so at the end of our date, she, brings me back home. We go back to my place, and it wasn't a good date at all. We get back to my place, and when we pull up on my door, there is a big green neon paper that says rent due. She looked at my door and looked at me and just had a chuckle and said, well, it was nice meeting you. Roger. Let me tell you, Roger never sounded so bad in my life. I was pissed When I seen that rent due on my door, I tore it off. I kicked it around my apartment. I was so mad. Oh my God, I was mad. I wanted to go into the leasing office and burn the place down, right? But it was my own fault. It was my own fault because I didn't properly save and put that money towards, my rent and budget and all that good stuff. It was my first apartment, but I didn't do right by it. So, I've been thinking about this thing this week about delinquency. Okay. I was going through some of my old paperwork when I used to work on property as a manager. And, one thing I tried to do was keep my delinquency at 0%. But of course, that's a bit lofty. So I try to at least go, below 3%. All right. If it was a bad property, then below 5%. I don't want to say bad property, but a D property or, what have you. So I took a job at this new property. The property wasn't new, it was just new for me. But when I started at this property, the delinquency was pretty high. It was up there. I mean, I don't know, it might have been like 10%. Like, it was bad. I mean, nobody was paying their rent, okay? It was bad. So we had to do quite a few things, you know what I mean? There were some people's leases who did not get renewed and what have you. But there were also some people who were on, they had been there for 2, 3, 4 years and was never on time. Never. And to them, they was like, I'll just pay the late charge, So for these people, and they may be like on the 7th, right? Like, by the time you got it to court, they had already, paid. So I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I called the people who had been late consistently for a few years, and I put out pictures in my office. I put pictures of big TVs and iPads and phones, and I put just everything you could imagine on there. And I would say, this person will come in to talk to me for the conference and say, hey, look over there, and pick something that you would love to have, that you would love to be gifted. And they go through there and they get excited. Oh, man. Wow. Shoot, I wouldn't mind having this laptop right here. This laptop is all right. And I'd say, you like the laptop? Yes. And you wouldn't mind having that laptop. Man, yeah, you're going to give me a laptop. No, we are not going to give you a laptop. But you have purchased that laptop 3 times by your late charges. Okay? And I begin to show them, look what you could have purchased. You just given this money to our property management group. They're just getting all of that money. You're just giving it away because you don't want to pay on time. You could buy that TV. You could have bought that laptop. Each one that comes in, I'm showing them different things. And for a lot of them, it was an aha moment. Like they never even thought about that. They never crossed their mind. And when they began to look how much money they were wasting, they began to change that. And they begin to pay on time, and that delinquency began to drop. Okay, like I said, there's some people I still had to kick out, right? But there were a good group of people who got an education. And that education resulted in us getting rent on time. And it also helped me get a bonus, right? Because at that time, I was getting bonuses for my delinquency. I don't know if some of y'all out there who are in the business are getting that sort of thing, but we got bonuses for that, right? And so, yeah, that got my money straight. But, I had to use creativity to do it, part of the reason, you got to do your job, right? That's part of your job. is to get that money. That's what you get paid to do. Okay. But I'd seen managers who I was under who would talk to people with such disrespect and dishonor because they were late. And I understand at times you have to be, strong and make sure that you're getting that rent. But I mean, it was downright disrespectful. You know what I mean? And they were getting nowhere with them. Nowhere. All right. And I wanted to try a different approach. I used some creativity. That wouldn't work on every property, right? But at that particular property, in that, area, that worked good. And it was something that I was able to use. I was able to get, my delinquency up. And man, it was a great accomplishment because I took time to be creative and not vindictive. Okay. And not trying to be more than what I was because I'm the property manager. Right. So, we just got to be careful in that, and making sure that we can be creative. And see, I started in low income housing. And I would say, man, I can't wait till I get to an A property so I don't have to deal with late payments. You know what I found out? I found out that the A property people are late on their rent, just like the C property people. They're late too. The only difference is they're going to get a little more indignant when they get that late letter in the mail. They come in.
You explain this that I got in the mail?
Like it's a late letter. Hence the word late. Why would you send this to me?
I have my lawyer on speed dial.
If I could have a quarter for every time I heard I have a lawyer on speed dial. And I'm thinking, good, because you're going to need them when we go to court to get this money. You know what I mean? But as long as I got my lawyer on speed dial, so you're waiting on their cousin who's an entertainment lawyer to call you and ask you about this late letter that you sent them because it was late. You know what I mean? So, I couldn't use the tactic that I used on the other property at that property. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, I had to be creative. I had to be respectful. I had to, understand that some people, maybe they manage their money poorly. Maybe they had to spend all their money because they're, because they're sick. And hospital bills, maybe somebody just died, you know what I mean? So who knows, right? But we still have a job to do, absolutely, but I think we could still be empathetic. We could still do our job, whether that means, I'm sorry, I have to turn you over to, collections, you know what I mean? I have to file on you. I'm sorry, you're going to get evicted. Sometimes that happens. All right. That's a part of it. Right. But I don't think we have to be all the time. You know what I mean? You want to get this rent down here. I know that much. Or get your stuff out of my apartment. I couldn't tell you how many times I heard stuff like that. And I just like, man, and let me just say, for our flies on the wall, and when I say flies on the wall, those are the people that are listening to this podcast who are not in the business, right? But they love the stories, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate you guys. Big up to Andre out there in Pittsburgh listening. He's a fly on the wall, and I'm going to tell y'all, man, that are listening in our business, we do have a job to do, and it's not always easy. You know what I mean? Because we have to answer, to regionals, and we have to answer to directors and, and on and on, so it's not always easy. We can't always just be like, well, don't worry about it. Just give me next month. It doesn't always work like that, right? We do have a job to do. So You also want to have a little, understanding as well when you're going in, understanding that your property manager has a job to do. Sometimes you can work out a deal. Sometimes you can, work out, some type of arrangement. But, sometimes they can, sometimes they cannot. It just depends on that property and depends on that property management group, so you can't get upset with that. You can't flip out on people because of that. Take a breath before you walk into that office, right? But I also want to send a shout out to Giuliano, who is in the business. He's one of the assistant property managers here in Nashville, Tennessee. Big shout outs to him. He's been listening, and I know he knows where I'm coming from when it comes down to these delinquencies. All right. So people, listen, be creative, not vindictive. Okay, figure out a way. There's many ways that you could come up with to engage the people, get the people, if they need educated, you know what I mean, or work something out to be able to get your residents to pay on time, take care of their rent, and you make out on top because your books are together and you might even get a bonus. All right. Well, listen up. That's all I have for you today on By the Fence podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell a friend. The name is Trent, Roger Trent, but you can call me Tico. What's up?